It was a quiet evening when I knocked on the door of my 60-year-old neighbor, Mr. Harrison. He had been living alone for the past decade, ever since his wife passed away. I had always seen him as a reserved man, keeping to himself, except for the occasional greetings exchanged over the fence. Tonight was different. I had come 6 times before, each time leaving unanswered. There was something about the eerie silence from his house that unsettled me. My hand hesitated before knocking one last time. This time, the door creaked open. A gust of warm air hit my face, thick with the scent of lavender, and something else, something metallic. The dim hallway stretched before me, leading to the faint sound of water running. My pulse quickened. Something about the open door, the unnatural stillness of the house, sent a shiver up my spine. Was Mr. Harrison even expecting me? Had he finally decided to answer? Or was this an accident? Mr. Harrison? My voice barely rose above a whisper. No response. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, steam escaping into the corridor. The soft sound of water trickling down echoed eerily. My heart pounded as I stepped closer, my fingers brushing against the cold wooden frame. And then I saw him. Mr. Harrison stood under the shower, water cascading over his wrinkled skin. But something was wrong. His eyes were wide open, staring blankly ahead. His mouth was slightly ajar, as if frozen in time. Then I noticed it, the deep crimson swirling in the drain. Blood. A sharp, cold shiver ran down my spine. My breath hitched as I took a step back, my foot barely making a sound against the tiled floor. My mind raced. Was he dead? Was I too late? Was someone else here? The steam thickened in the air, making it harder to breathe. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. I needed to move, to do something, but I stood frozen, staring at the lifeless expression on his face. And then, a noise behind me, a whisper, barely audible over the sound of the running water. I turned sharply. A shadow loomed behind me. At first, it was just a shape, barely distinguishable in the dim lighting. But as my eyes adjusted, I saw something more, a tall figure, its head tilted unnaturally to the side, standing in the hallway. "Why did you come back?" a voice rasped. My breath caught in my throat. The voice wasn't Mr. Harrison's. It wasn't anyone I recognized. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body wouldn't obey. The air around me turned ice cold, the hairs on my arms standing on end. The figure took a step forward. The bathroom light flickered. My vision blurred for a moment, and in that second, the figure vanished. But the whisper lingered. Shaking, I rushed to Mr. Harrison's study. The house felt different now, every shadow stretching longer than it should, every noise amplified in the oppressive silence. I could feel something watching me, its presence pressing against my skin like an invisible weight. On the desk, papers were scattered. My eyes landed on a half-written letter. "If anything happens to me," it began. I grabbed the paper, my fingers trembling. The letter detailed strange occurrences, voices at night, things moving on their own. A warning about something hidden beneath the house. I read on, each word tightening the knot in my stomach. "Do not open the floor," the letter pleaded. "It will be too late." Beneath the floor. My pulse thundered in my ears. I followed the instructions in the letter, moving cautiously toward the corner of the room. A loose floorboard creaked under my foot. With trembling hands, I knelt down and lifted it. Beneath it, an old wooden trapdoor lay embedded in the ground, its edges worn and splintered from age. My fingers hovered over the rusty handle. Everything in my gut told me to stop, to put the board back, and leave. But curiosity, fear, something stronger pushed me forward. The moment I lifted the trapdoor, a rush of cold air burst upward, sending chills down my spine. The air smelled damp, decayed, and something else, something old, something wrong. A staircase led downward into darkness. My flashlight flickered as I stepped inside. The space beneath was vast, stretching further than the foundation of the house should allow. The walls were lined with old photographs, ritualistic symbols carved into the stone. And bones, so many bones. Human remains, their sockets empty, their skeletal fingers reaching out as if frozen in the middle of a final, desperate plea. A chill wrapped around me, and then the whisper returned. "You're not supposed to be here." A faint glow formed in the darkness, growing stronger with each passing second. The woman from the photograph stood before me, her hollow eyes locked onto mine. "Help me," she pleaded, her voice a haunting echo. My fingers tightened around my flashlight. I wanted to speak, to move, but the weight of her stare held me in place. The journal at my feet flipped open, as if guided by an unseen hand. My eyes scanned the text. Mr. Harrison had bound her spirit here, trapped in a ritual that had failed decades ago. The walls trembled. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, forming a chorus of voices rising in urgency. "Set us free." The ground shook violently, books and artifacts tumbling from shelves. The spirit reached toward me, her fingers brushing against my skin. A searing pain shot through my arm, and suddenly I understood. I was the one who had to finish the ritual. I chanted the words from the journal, my voice barely steady. The air thickened, swirling with unseen energy. The spirit screamed, her form flickering between existence and oblivion. Shadows writhed across the walls, clawing, grasping. The chamber exploded in a blinding light. My body was thrown backward, and when I opened my eyes, I was alone. The whispering had stopped. The next morning, I returned to Mr. Harrison's house. It was empty. No blood, no sign of him. Only the letter remained. Had I imagined it all? Or had I freed him at last? The door creaked behind me. A whisper brushed against my ear. "You shouldn't have come back."